We on Newsx viewers are tracking a critical turning point in the US-Iran relations as both sides move into high-stakes talks in Islamabad. JD Vance has now arrived in Pakistan along with the US delegation, joining Iranian officials who reached earlier for direct negotiations. The talks come at a fragile moment with a temporary ceasefire in place, but continued accusations of violations from both Washington and Tehran. The biggest pressure point remains the Strait of Hormuz, where shipping restrictions are already disrupting global energy flows and raising fears of wider economic fallout. The US has warned that military options remain on the table if diplomacy collapses, while Iran is pushing for sanctions relief and security guarantees in return for de-escalation. With tensions still simmering across the region, especially in Lebanon, all eyes are now on Islamabad to see if this round of diplomacy can prevent a return to open conflict. Now, in a significant development from the Islamabad peace talks, the Iranian delegation has lodged a strong protest with Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir over what they claim is a US violation of the truce. According to Iran's Tasnim News, the Iranian side, led by Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, registered their objection during a meeting with the Army Chief today. The Iranians raised serious concerns about the American breach of the agreement at this critical stage of the negotiations, calling it unacceptable. Major General P.K. Sehgal is a defense expert and Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta is a former diplomat. They're both joining me on the broadcast. I'd like to welcome you both. And Major General Sehgal, we're at a very, very important stage in the war, of course. All eyes on this meeting. But the latest development that I've just surprised our viewers of, what would you like to say on it?
The talks, though everybody in the world wants them to succeed, they are unlikely to succeed for several reasons. First is both sides have displayed elephantine egos. There is no statesmanship visible on either side. Secondly, neither side wants to blink. Thirdly, both sides are threatening each other. As far as America is concerned, if they say there is no successful outcome, they will resume fighting once again and they will punish them even far more. Iran on the other side says that our fingers on the trigger, should you dare do this, we will devastate the Middle Eastern countries, all of which are your allies. And fourthly, there are preconditions. And if any of the negotiations they should be without preconditions. And fifthly, there is a huge difference of perception between what was fed to America and what was fed to Iran. As far as America is concerned, they categorically state that the ceasefire in Lebanon was not part of the 10 proposals put up. Whereas Iran categorically says that America has done a breach of the agreement and they've already violated that. Their ally Israel is bombarding Lebanon in a very major way. And almost 357 people had earlier died and more than 200 people have again died today. Under the circumstances, they said Israel's first policy cannot be and will not be accepted. Though Iran has sent a 71-strong delegation, the American delegation is small, led by their vice president, whom Iran trusts. Iran does not trust Witkoff. It does not trust the son-in-law of Donald Trump. Because on two occasions, that is in June last year and again on 28th of February, both of them backstabbed Iran. Under these circumstances, the only worthwhile leader whom they trust is JD Vance. JD Vance had been for full 5 weeks. He's been against the idea of initially starting this war. And all these 40 days, he's been reticent. He has made no statement whatsoever. And he wants definitely to find some way of getting out of this war. Although then there's a huge amount of risk involved as far as he's concerned. Should he succeed in achieving something worthwhile, his chances of getting elected in 2028 would skyrocket. And should he fail, then he has a price to pay. As far as Donald Trump is concerned, Donald Trump says loud and clear that he has full faith in him and he will go on and find an agreement which is a win-win situation for both, and under no circumstances will he compromise on American interests. Now, as far as Iran is concerned, Iran categorically says that before any direct talks can take place, all Iranian assets frozen the world over must be freed without any further delay. And secondly, there has to be a guarantee that under no circumstances will there be any attack on Lebanon. There has to be a ceasefire in Lebanon because they say they cannot and will not let down Hezbollah at any cost. On the other hand, American preconditions are also of the variety. They first say that as far as nuclear ambition is concerned, Iran has to give an absolute assurance that under no circumstances will they want to make a nuclear weapon. Secondly, the 400 kg enriched material that they want, they have to hand it over. Secondly, Israel and America says that they have to reduce their military missile capabilities by an order of magnitude. And also, as far as Hormuz is concerned, Iran wants to have a total control over Hormuz and wants to put a toll on it so that it incurs a revenue of about $80 billion annually, which will go in for reconstruction. On the other hand, as far as America is concerned, America says that it is part of the UN clause and it has to be treated as an international freeway. There can be no question of anybody levying any tolls because this is a state which is bounded both sides by Iran on one side and Oman on the other side. Both want to put a toll. And if that is accepted as a precedent, then the same thing can happen to the Strait of Malacca and in South China Sea. Back to you.
Right. Major General Sehgal, I'll come back to you. I also have Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta with me. Ambassador Gupta, now Asim Munir's role is pivotal, of course, but the fact really is that is Pakistan really the mediator, or is it just conveying Donald Trump's messages to Iran?
Good afternoon, Vaishali. You see, Pakistan has always been used by Americans in the past. You have seen it started primarily during the Soviet Union and the war against Afghanistan, when the jihadi elements were propped up by Pakistani help and US funding. And thereafter, they have used Pakistan in a variety of ways to prop up or to negotiate certain elements. So here, my impression is that US and Iran both are now somewhat tired of this continuous fight. And therefore, US wanted some sort of mediation, and obviously Pakistan was one of the qualified candidates because Shehbaz Sharif has been operating like a sycophant to President Trump. You have seen his speeches on President Trump, his nomination for the Peace Prize and other things. So I think he found him trustworthy. Similarly, Trump has good equation with Asim Munir. And Asim Munir, that is why he was invited to White House for lunch. And maybe that was in the background. So all these things given together, US decided to use Pakistan as some sort of, given the mediatory role in this process. Now, it is not really mediation in the real sense. It is more of a job of facilitator. Pakistan is getting the demands
Ambassador
from
Gupta,
the two sides.
I have to interrupt you, but I want to come back to you with this point and another point that I have to raise. Just give me a minute, please. Now, Iranian state media is reporting a